Reporting from the Boulevard Triomphal here in Libreville, I am Charles Ebune and this is Globewatch Gabon. Across the world today, countries are adopting and developing policies to combat climate change as the world prepares to meet in December to hammer what has been described as a historic conference as world leaders decide to produce a comprehensive document on how to keep temperatures below 2 degrees Celsius. So is Gabon, and that is why I am at the country's Ministry for Forestry and Water Resources to meet President Ali Bongo's top government official when it comes to sustainable development and policies. Just how prepared and unique is Gabon's counter-climate change policy, and how can she contribute to the rest of the world? Minister Noel Mesone, welcome to Globewatch.
Thank you, welcome.
President Ali Bongo has stated in the emerging Gabon strategy that there are 3 levels. 1, industry, the other, a green economy, and the other, a service-based nation.
I cannot a 4th one. The 4th one is Blue Gabon, to develop a blue base that is sea, marine, and waters based economy.
In the forestry sector, which of course is the 2nd largest employer after the state, employing some 28,000 Gabonese. That should be around 28% of the employment level.
Yes.
What is Gabon's climate change response policy like?
Gabon's climate policy was not conceived solely for the purpose of COP21. President Ali Bongo Ondimba, very early on, when he took office, devised a vision for the country where sustainable development is the foundation, the key. And when you talk about sustainable development, you talk about protecting the environment, fighting climate change, and ensuring that biodiversity is preserved. That is the foundation of the policy of emerging Gabon. And when we submitted recently our intended determined contribution to COP21, we simply put together some of the policies that we've been putting in place, that we've been implementing for the past 5 years.
You people have an excellent document, I must admit, a very comprehensive, precise, and visionary policy vis-a-vis climate change. And the document is in front of me. Can you just tell me, how did Gabon come out with such a clear-cutting document?
Well, it's really a participative process that involved the public sector, the administrations, civil society, the private sector, meaning all the stakeholders. But the foundation of this document is really the vision that President Ali Bongo Ondimba had already formulated for the country. So our task was to translate that vision into a plan, a climate plan, a plan that ensures that across the sectors of the country, across the public sectors, the economic sectors, and all the other areas where carbon emissions could be stemming from, that things are being done to stem out, the progress of carbon emissions.
Gabon's National Climate Council has done an extensive work in carrying research and statistics on the evolution of climate change in this country in particular.
Yes.
What are the climatic changes realities in this country that forced you to produce such an elaborate document?
Gabon is one of the smallest emitters of carbon dioxide in the world. We could have just sat down and say, well, you know, we're not emitting that much carbon. Why bother with a climate plan? But we want to take our responsibility. One of the key principles of the convention is common but differentiated responsibility. So we feel responsible, even though it's a differentiated responsibility, but we feel responsible, not only for our own good, but also for the good of the planet, because we want to make our contribution. That is why we felt that we had to have that plan, but also because the impact, the effects of climate change know no boundaries. They know no boundaries. What is being done in one country that doesn't fight against climate change, against carbon emissions, would have effect on another country. So we have to have policies to adapt, policies to mitigate, policies to promote climate resilient agriculture, and policies that, you know, in a sense, ensure that we won't be surprised by the effect of climate change.
And one of the recent steps that you took is the creation and the effective usage today here in Gabon of the Gabonese Agency for Space Studies and Observation.
Yes.
It is unique in Gabon. I just wonder how you are going to put that to the use of other CEMAC member countries. Are you generous in this area?
I would like to point out that AGOS, for us, is one example of technology transfer. How a country like Gabon could contribute to technology transfer. We put this station in place not only to monitor and manage our forest cover, our natural resources, but we are also willing to share the information that is gathered through AGOS with Central African countries. We're willing to provide that information even beyond the Congo Basin countries, reaching out to Senegal and some of the other countries beyond the Congo Basin. So that's for us an example of technology transfer, and that has to be supported by our partners. You know, AGOS has to be supported by our partners, because this is an example that technology transfer is not only one way, it's a two-way process. It's a two-way situation game.
You are talking of partners. The French government injected some 532 million CFA francs, if my statistics are not wrong, in helping you to realize all of these. What are the other partners involved in these climate change discussions to make Gabon produce a blueprint document before December?
I will tell you that Gabon's INDC did not require money from any partner. We did it on ourselves because with the things that we were already doing, things that we had decided early on. For example, stopping gas flaring by oil companies is decision that we had taken way back, you know, and we are continuing to do it with other oil companies. It's the same thing with some of the other steps that we are taking. These are things that we started a long time ago that we are simply going to continue to reach our level of cutting by 50% carbon emission by 2025.
Current statistics indicate one of the major benefits of your space studies and observation agencies that it has helped you to identify today that the country has about some 23 million hectares of forest area. That should be at least 85% of Gabon. But you know, this is the second most important sector of the economy after petrol, with intense activities going on. People destroy the farm. How do you bridge the gap in all of that?
Well, the first thing is to continue sustainable forestry management. We still have a very, very small deforestation rate in Gabon. That's why we are able to manage to maintain a forest cover of about 85 to 88%. People have the impression that Gabonese forests is being cut down at a rate that is too high, but that's not the case. We still have a very, very high level of forest cover. So we're continuing to promote sustainable management. We're taking measures to make inventories. We're taking measures to regulate activities, either by big timber companies or by small companies, but also to regulate the activities of the populations. We're putting in place programs that allow us to monitor forest activities.
This Climate Change Council is directly under the control of the President of Gabon.
It is chaired by the President.
By the President,
yes.
Ali Bongo.
Yes.
With this your extraordinary document, I should repeat, how well will you sell your ideas to the rest of the Central African states? If you go to Chad, if you go to Cameroon, if you go to the Central African Republic today, some of your big neighbors, they will tell you that security, security, security. It seems to me that in this whole debate of how the Central African region should respond to the December conference, Gabon will be left alone because Paul Biya will tell you that I have to tackle Boko Haram. Idris Deby will tell Ali Bongo, I have to tackle Boko Haram. Catherine Samba Panza will tell you that I have to tackle insecurity.
Charles, I remember far back a fellow, Canadian fellow by the name of Thomas Homer Dixon, is a professor, wrote an interesting book called Acute Environmental Change and Conflict. So there's a link between acute environmental change and conflicts. By dealing with the environment, by dealing with climate change, we are, to a certain extent, mitigating future conflicts, mitigating the intensity of conflicts, because fighting over resources could be a major source of conflicts. So there is really no disconnect as such between fighting climate change and preventing conflict, you see. So in our position, you know that Gabon is now chairing ECAS, and that has to be part of our message to the other countries that by dealing with climate change, by dealing with environmental issues, we are also preventing future conflicts. We are, to a certain extent, also helping, contributing to manage the effects of current conflicts.
As you and I speak, yes, the network of the green economy in the Central African sub-region are adopting a policy framework which is going to be used as the instrumentum laboris, yes, for all African governments, yes, in December.
Yes. We are, first of all, at the administration level, organizing with all the other ministries to put in place a technical committee. We are participating in ongoing intergovernmental negotiations on the draft document. We are going to participate in a COMEFAC workshop for legal councils of ECAS countries in Cameroon to prepare for these negotiations. As you rightfully mentioned, we are now hosting this meeting of civil society and parliamentarians on the green economy. That's because these are partners that we have to listen to, as well as we have to listen now to the church, because the church also has a voice in the stakes of these climate negotiations.
You used to be Gabonese ambassador to the United Nations, a permanent representative to the United Nations. You, at one moment, chaired the Security Council of the United Nations. You are used with the bureaucracy of Manhattan.
Yes.
When you look at the way things are moving today, Pope Francis has spoken, a summit on conscience has been held in France. with Francois Hollande and eminent personalities, Kofi Annan, and all the big industrialists you can imagine. Are you hopeful that by December 11, probably when the summit will be ending, this time around, there will be no Rio de Janeiro, there will be no Copenhagen, there will be no Cancun, and that there will be a legally binding document to safeguard humanity? Because if that is not done, temperature reaches 2%, and by 6% by 290, it will be dangerous.
I think there is a heightened political awareness that we have to be successful in Paris. This is what all leaders are saying. This is what all leaders are pushing for. We have to convey to our negotiators that they should do all that is possible first of all, to get a good draft by the end of this month, so that we can start seriously negotiating.
Mr. Minister, you just said that there is a heightened political consciousness on this issue of climate change. But you see, the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, India, will tell you that, okay, this is the time that we want to develop. The already developed nations are telling us that, please, you have to halt. Emerging countries, including Gabon, Cameroon, and many others in the third world will tell you that, okay, these guys destroy the environment. They have to develop. That is what they are telling us today. They want to halt our development. How do you package all these differences into a common strategy?
Well, we are talking about our common future. That's what we are talking about. Regardless of development strategies, we are talking about our common future and what that future should be. The future we want. You know, that's what we said at Rio Plus 20, the future we want.
And that, simply taking the slogan of the new Millennium Development Goals by 2030.
And that future,
Sustainable Development Goals.
And that future should be a low carbon future. That future should be a future where the level of emission would be below 2% or even below 1.5%. That future should be a future of sustainable development, you know, a future of green economy. That's the future that we want, and that has to be on the agenda of all countries in the world. We have to find a way to reconcile the protection of the climate and economic growth, inclusive growth, participative growth, a growth that reaches all the poor, all the population, a growth that allows us to fight poverty, to eradicate poverty. You know, that's really the challenge. And I think all countries understand that we can't continue on the way we've been doing business for the past decade.
I've been here since 2014. The forestry sector and the protection of natural resources. You heard of the recent report published by one non-governmental organization stating that the conflict in the Central African Republic have been fueled by Western timber or lumber companies that financed rebel movements. And Gabon is equally accused of hosting illegal forestry exploitation companies. How serious are you tackling that issue?
Let me say this. I think it's a very simplistic assertion or simplistic conclusion that a conflict such as the one in the Central African Republic is solely the fact of some illegal,
it's a partial blame.
Illegal, timber exploitation. There has to be further investigation by credible organizations to come to those sorts of conclusions. That said, I think as we strive to sustainably manage our forest, we have to come to terms with unsustainable practices. Call it illegal or call it unsustainable, but we have to ensure that the right way is the way of sustainable management. And sustainable management requires that we have proper, efficient regulatory frameworks. Frameworks that ensure the rights and the interest of local populations. Frameworks that allow incentives for the private sector to sustainably exploit forest.
One of the arguments which will be put forward in days ahead, and a word you have consistently used in this interview, is that local communities, yes, the local people, in some countries they will tell you the autochthones, the indigenes. Just how well is the Gabonese strategy of ensuring a green economy and at the same time compensating the local communities?
That responsibility, the responsibility to care for local populations is first and foremost a national responsibility. And what we are doing here in Gabon is to put in place different programs and ideas, first of all, to ensure that local populations have access to forest resources, that they have unrestricted access to forest resources. That's one thing we do. The second thing we do is to secure the rights of local population. For example, the way even Cameroon does also is to create what we call community forestry permits so that local populations can have access. The other thing that we do is to promote corporate social responsibility amongst
the companies involved in the exploitation.
Exactly, so that they can do social, those sorts of things.
Water provision,
exactly. Those sorts of things. We are developing an agricultural program. We call it GRAIN, like seeds, GRAIN, and that project, the basis of that project is to secure agricultural lands for the populations. So really a number of things that we are doing to promote access, to promote corporate social responsibility amongst local populations, for local populations, to secure agriculture so that the local populations would do sustainable agriculture.
Finally, Mr. Minister, how protected are Gabonese forests and frontiers at this particular moment as we speak? You know that the issue of insecurity.
You know, the security of our common borders with our brother countries is also a common responsibility. We have put in place border commissions and we frequently hold meetings with these border commissions to discuss, security issues at the borders. When we were in Cameroon recently discussing the Congo Basin Partnership initiatives, we had a meeting with Central African countries, to discuss the situation of our common borders and what to do and how to strengthen security along our borders.
The Gabonese Minister for the Environment, Natural Resources and Forest, Noel Nelson Misone. Thanks very much for accepting to be guest on Globewatch.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.